Hello, and welcome to Take It and Make It Tuesday, brought to you by the Clearview Library District. My name is Jason, and today I'm going to be walking you through a simple but delicious mulled wine recipe to keep you warm through these cool fall nights we're experiencing and the even colder winter nights that are to come. Before we get into our recipe though, I just want to remind you that this is not the only awesome thing that we do in the Clearview Library District. Please stay up to date on our website, clearviewlibrary.org, and see all the great programs we have going on for adults and kids of all ages. All right, let's get into our mulled wine recipe for today. First, we're going to talk about what you're going to need, the different ingredients that you'll be using, and some possible variations that you might want to use to experiment in the future. First of all, you're going to need a large saucepan or a pot, sort of like the one that I have, that has relatively high capacity. Now, I like to use the coated stainless steel Dutch ovens because they just seem to do everything great in the kitchen, and I feel like I'm a real chef when I use them. So that's what I'll be using. You'll also need to provide for yourself a 750 milliliter bottle of semi-sweet red wine. We're going to use a Cabernet Sauvignon today, but you can feel free to use a Zinfandel or a Merlot or any wine that's sort of along those lines. Now, this might be the first point where you do some experimentation down the road. Try different wines, see what flavors you get as a result. Just a word of caution there, make sure you are familiar with the characteristics of the wine that you'll be using in your experiments, because those are really going to come through in the mulled wine finished product. So for instance, if you use a wine that's really oaky, well then you might in the end get some bitter woodiness in your finished product. If you enjoy that flavor profile, so much the better. If not, maybe you just stay with the Cabs and the Merlots. But it's a good point of the process to experiment with. Next, you'll need to provide for yourself a half a cup of brandy. There's no need to break the bank on the brandy that you use. No need to raid the liquor cabinet and get out Dad's finest dram for this recipe. Not at all. Feel free to go a little cheaper on the brandy that you use. And just to double back to the red wine for a moment, no need to break the bank on this either, but you also want to keep in mind that if you get a super cheap, really bland red wine, that blandness is also going to be part of the final product characteristics as well in your mulled wine. But you also probably don't want to go out and spend 20 or 30 bucks on that bottle. So keep it middle of the road with the red wine that you choose. Now, if you were able to get one of our recipe kits from Clearview Library District, you have everything else that you need. First of all, you should have one orange that you want to slice into rounds, just like we've done there. If you haven't done that yet, pause the video and get your orange sliced up. The next thing that we have is 3 sticks of cinnamon, 3 star anise, and 6 whole cloves. This is another good point at which to experiment. If you enjoy that black jelly bean flavor that comes from star anise, well then go ahead and put all the star anise in that you want. But those sorts of ingredients are good places for you to do some experimentation as well. And finally, we have 2 teaspoons of ground ginger and a 1/3 cup of just plain old white sugar. Now, your sweetener here is another place where you might consider doing some experiments. You could perhaps use honey instead of white sugar. That will add a little complexity to your mulled wine. You could also use brown sugar, which can add a little fudginess to your mulled wine. And perhaps if you're looking for a 0-calorie option, you might consider using monk fruit sweetener. I haven't tried that myself, but I think I'll experiment with that down the road and see how it turns out. If you do it, feel free to let me know. All right, all of that being said, let's assemble our ingredients. This is super easy. First, we're going to add our wine and our brandy to our pan. So we'll use our brandy here and get that in. Next, we're going to just dump our entire bottle of red wine right into our pan or our pot, whatever you're using. Careful with this as it is prone to splash and you might not want to get red wine on your clothes. All right, now that we've got our brandy and our red wine in our pot, Next, I'm going to sprinkle in the sugar and the ginger. That's just the order I like to do things in. I spread it around in the pot pretty good. And then, just because I feel like it, I usually give it a little stir. Get that sugar and get that ground ginger into suspension. All right, we'll call that good enough. And then feel free to just put your oranges in like so. And then we'll go ahead and dump the last of our dry ingredients in, the cinnamon, the cloves, and the star anise. And I'm just going to give that one more little stir because I kind of like to try to get things in suspension before I put them on the stove top. And we'll go ahead and call that good enough. Next, all you'll need to do is fire up that stove over medium heat. Bring this whole brew to a simmer, and then once you get to that simmer, back it off to medium or to low depending on how your stovetop works. For me, when I get to that point, I'll be turning it all the way down to low because I just have rocket engines on my gas stove on each and every one of them. Once you get to that simmer and you turn it down to low or medium low, you want to, whatever you choose to do there, you want to make sure that it's low enough to have a gentle simmer going because you want to avoid boiling. Boiling your mulled wine, I've found, can lead to a little bit of bitterness sneaking in. My guess is that's from the orange peel that's in the brew with it. Also, you're going to lose some alcohol. And let's face it, we are making mulled wine, so we want some of that alcohol, most of that alcohol, to stay in our brew. So once we have that to a simmer, we cover it, put it on low, and we're going to do that for 20 minutes. Okay, we've had this on medium heat for about 10 minutes now. Mine's just getting to the point of simmering. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner down to low so that we can maintain that simmer, and we're going to go ahead and cover it. At this point, I'll set a timer for 20 minutes and then we should be ready to try a little mug in about 20 minutes. Okay, our 20 minutes of simmering is up. And we've pulled our mulled wine off of the stove top, and it smells amazing in the kitchen. So now it's time to have a little taste test. If you want, you can go ahead and ladle your mulled wine right out of your saucepan that you have all of your ingredients mixed up in if you like it a little more rustic. I'm going to dump mine out through a strainer into a crock pot so that I can turn it on to low and then have it continue to kind of meld together in there, and then it'll be ready later when I get off of work to have a couple mugs. All right. Okay, so we've got a nice clean mulled wine in the bottom of our crock pot there. All of our nice ingredients. And you're ready to just grab a ladle, fill a mug, and then if you'd like to, you can add some garnishes. I'm going to add 1 stick of cinnamon, 1 whole star anise, and then we'll put a nice fresh orange round there on the rim. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Try it out. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions or if you'd like me to send you a PDF copy of this recipe, send me an email at jason@clearviewlibrary.org. That's JASON at clearviewlibrary.org. I'll also be posting the recipe shortly here at the end of the video as well. That's it. It's just that simple. Cheers.